It brings calm as well. I have to say, it brings a sense of calmness because I think one of the things you want to fix things, you want to solve problems, but when you're able to see the behavior for what it is and recognize just part of being human, it's part of any relationship in any home and under any we have these moments, right? And I love that you give the little bit of space, so that means you know each other. The fact that you recover from it, because I'm sure it goes both ways, right? I'm sure there's times on Corinne's side that she does something, you give her a little space, and you know what I mean? It goes both ways, right?
And I'll say that it also is like a one-on-one thing that happens with yourself as the person who's getting, who becomes aroused by stress. I even have to be able to, in my own mind, with my own self, step back and look at my stress behaviors and recognize them. And they still happen. Like when we all have different responses to stress, and we all know what ours are. Mine happen to be like connected to my eating, because that's just what came up for me first when I was in high school. And that was like the place that I went, and that was like, could take away the other pain for me. So I have that like connection to that. When I get stressed, there's something that happens where my mind jumps over to that, that as being a problem in my life. And now I'm able to, and it still happens. Like this is just constant work, but like, I am able to recognize now, like I'm going there and that's not my problem right now. So that's the first step. And like, just being able to recognize that something isn't your problem. And I can't stress enough, like how often I see, people that I work with, whether it's in yoga or in life coaching or just people that I meet, because I happen to just meet a lot of people. Like everyone has their own thing. I like to just call it like, I have my thing, you have your thing. We all have our different things, but whatever your thing is, it's such a common trend to create other stressors in your life. And I think that noticing that you're doing that is a huge, huge first step. And that's what I like to work with people on, whether it's in yoga or elsewhere.
And one of the things is what creates another stressor actually relieves stress, and then it creates another stressor. So I go to food too, totally. I joke about it all the time, but sometimes it's been a serious problem. And but instead of trying to suppress that, now I go, tells me, and it doesn't mean that you don't go and do whatever, whatever it is with me. I'll become insatiable. I can't get full. And it happens less now than it has in the past, but I still use it as a sign of not to beat it's a sign, okay, your system, if I could look inside and see what was going on in my system, the reason that happens, I mean, when you under extreme stress, it actually turns off the hormone that indicates to you that that you're satiated. So it has something to do with, I'm no neuroscientist, but there is a scientific explanation for it. But I experienced it and I just, let it go. So I want to just go back to one thing you said, Corrine, because I think we're just about ready to wrap up and we should share some final thoughts for folks. But I just want to stay with something, just imagining that there are parents watching this with children of all different ages, including young adults who they're worried about struggling, or have an unfair burden in some way, or have been diagnosed with something, or maybe it's just struggling with anxiety, or they're not, there's a number of parents trying to figure out what to do around their kids. And you said a comment that this is easier for me than it is for you, Martel. And clearly, there's a big difference in your experience, but I think it's an important thing for us to honor parents as well, what it feels like to be a parent and want everything, every possibility, everything for your child, and want to be the person that's able to give that, to figure out exactly what's needed, and how hard that can be on us as parents when we just don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think the concept of, for myself, feeling out of control as a parent, like not being able to fix something, and that there's some loss and grief that goes along with that, that, you just feel like, wow, I have to accept this. And also, as I was saying earlier, the idea of, I know I would be more helpful to Martel if I could really understand what it felt like to be her. So what her triggers were, what it felt like to, you know, I don't know, walk down the street. We talk a lot and have shared a lot of just trying to have her tell me like what that experience was. So one of the ones I think that was really profound for me was Martel, when we were, you know, when she was still living in New Jersey, where I still live most of the time, right outside of Manhattan. And she said, wow, you know, working in New York City will probably be the best thing because there's so much mass transportation. And I had previously worked in New York and experienced going in and out of Port Authority, which is very busy, crowds, you know, and yet for Martel, the thing that seemed like it was going to be a good solution turned into a stressor because of the blocks she has in her visual field, people coming at her with
Right.
a constant assault, right,
Yeah.
to your system.
Especially like in my lower part of my vision, like stepping on children and dogs. It was just not only embarrassing, but like hurtful. It
Right.
could be people yelling at me or thinking that I'm just inconsiderate. So instances like that were just not the best.
And so she would get to work and I would get a text or a call that this is really bad. I hate my job. Things are terrible. And so we had to really step back and I had to let her really talk to me about, so what's going on in the morning for you on your journey to work? And I have to say, I didn't really want to understand that. I didn't want to sit with how hard that was for her, but I had to, because I had to let her articulate that to me so we could problem solve together that, wow, this really wasn't the best solution. Like,
Yes.
New York City and Port Authority and Penn Station, like these places are not the best fit, even though we thought maybe they would be. So I think for families of kids with disabilities that I work with at Martels State University, where I work, it's really important for, and again, this comes from the field of infant mental health, to really be there to hold parents as they try to understand what it feels like to be their child. And so, you know, a lot of my work has, for years, for 16 years, has been trying to help parents write a first person profile of their child. You know, hello, my name is Gigi, and this is what it feels like to be me. Mostly for families of very young children who have a diagnosis of autism and also who are not able to express themselves and what their life feels like. So, I've shared with Martel many times, she has given voice to many children who can't explain what life feels like, not just kids with a visual disability, but just given voice to how much anxiety and fear compound and that stress, you know, how it manifests itself. And so I'm so lucky that she can share those things with me, but most of the families I work with, their children can. So we have to become these keen observers. And I feel like my role as a professional has been holding these parents, figuratively, so that they can dig down deeper and understand what it feels like to be their child. And what's really helped me in my experience with Martel is when they back away from it and tell me I can't do this right now, I have an understanding of why they can't. You know, that's a stress behavior. That them saying, oh, I couldn't possibly tell you about that or write that right now is a stress behavior. It's them saying that's too much. And that has been really, really helpful for me in my own work.
It's interesting. And it's very related to the work in self-reg. We look at it just a little differently, although very connected. It's not just trying to understand the experience. It's trying to look at through the lens of self-reg or of stressors, trying to understand, but also energy, you know, we're trying to understand where the energy is and trying to understand it from the inside out, because our experiences are all different. Really helpful. Can you leave us maybe with a couple words or suggestions that you would have, Martel, let's say for other young people, what they might take away from your experience with using self-reg, the 5 steps, understanding your own stressors in your own life, and how you've applied those?
Yeah, just essentially that learning to love yourself no matter what's going on for you is a huge step. And knowing that whatever condition you have, even if it's mental, if it's physical, that you're so much more than your body or than your mind. Like your soul is something that is whole and it's not broken, and you have the innate ability to get to that state of calm because it's your natural state. Like I say this a lot in my teachings, is that like we come into this world really calm. Like our when we are born into the world, we are just happy and calm, and that's the place that we're all trying to get back to. So no matter what is going on for you, like we've got to learn to tap into these steps, and they allow us that journey back to that initial natural true state of calmness.
Wow, you are incredible. You are incredible. That in itself is so inspiring. I'm so what a pleasure it is to meet you, really. And I think you need to keep talking and sharing your story. And I mean, what you just advised is something that I think we can all learn from as well. I love the way you phrased that. How did it feel? We'll leave the final word with you, Corrine. How did it feel, first of all, to hear your daughter share that as a final word? And then any closing thoughts that you'd like to link in with that to leave us with?
So, you know, I think, and I am not a yoga teacher, but I practice yoga. And one of the things, one of the teachers that I've had for many years, you know, talks about honoring your teacher, right?
Right.
She's my teacher. She's become my teacher in so many ways. Her insights teach me.
Wow. And they've taught me today as well. You guys are wonderful, and I thank you so much for sharing today. And you're beautiful people. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.